Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking all about living alone and kind of just the pros and cons of it and what I have learned from living by myself for the past year. Living by myself has kind of been something that I've always wanted to do and experience. I just thought it always sounded so cool. Just like the most adult thing you could do, live by yourself. And it was honestly a goal I've had for myself to be able to do for a really long time. There's definitely just some things that I wasn't expecting to kind of, I guess, deal with or even learn about myself that I have in the past year. So I thought it'd be fun to make a little video about it. If you're thinking about living by yourself or you're just curious on what it's like, hopefully this video is a little bit helpful. Just a little bit of background info. I graduated college in June of 2021 or like May of 2021, and my lease was up in August for the apartment I was in senior year, and most of my roommates were either moving away for jobs or for school or something like that, and I was in no place to be able to afford to live by myself after graduating. I had no money, so I decided to move back home and move in with my parents to save up money. So I moved home August of 2021, and I was working 2 jobs, one in a restaurant and one for a company that was more so utilizing like my degree and what I learned in school. And I saved up for like 6 months, which in the grand scheme of things is not that long. Like I moved home for 6 months, but when I was going through it, I felt like time was dragging on. I also didn't want to move home after college. February of 2022, I finally was able to save up enough money and move back down to San Diego. And the job that I was working part-time was remote at that time, and so they didn't have an issue with me moving, and I actually went full-time with them. So when I moved down here, I went full-time remote with like an actual career kind of based job, and I was living by myself. And I've been here for the past year. It's now February of 2023. Yeah, there's definitely just lots of things that I've learned. I've really enjoyed living by myself, but definitely some things I wasn't expecting to happened as well. But I want to start off with the cons first, because if I end the video on all the cons, it's just gonna make me feel bad. You know, we don't want that. So the first most obvious con of living by yourself is the expenses. It is very expensive to live by yourself, probably anywhere in the United States, but especially in San Diego. So when it comes to my rent for my apartment, first off, trying to find an apartment when I was looking for apartments was so difficult. So hard. I haven't looked at apartments since then, so I don't know if it's gotten any easier, but it was so extremely difficult. I currently live in a pretty good location of San Diego. My actual apartment is a 1-bedroom, and the amount of space I have in here is pretty substantial for a 1-bedroom. I don't know the exact square footage, but if I had to guess, I want to say it's like, I don't know, 1,000 square feet. It's pretty big for a 1-bedroom, and because of that, when I was signing my lease for the rent, I felt like the rent was very justified and honestly on the lower end for what I had been looking at. So when I signed my lease, I was paying $16.50 a month, which is a lot of money. There's no getting around that. It was a lot of money, but for everything I just said, I felt like it was justified and it was within my budget, so it was good. Since then, I had a 6-month lease and I've been month to month ever since. It was raised like about $100, so I'm paying a little more than $17.50 now. On top of the rent, you also have all the other expenses you wouldn't split with a roommate, like utilities, water, internet bill. So for water, my complex pays for my water bill. I feel like that's pretty standard for most apartments, at least in San Diego and what I've experienced. For internet, that one is kind of just a bummer because I can't split that with anybody. But the one I really don't mind is utility bill, because that one is very flexible depending on how much you're using, like how many people are in the house using like gas and electric. So that one I'm not like super bothered by. It, you know, makes the most sense. My utility bill also isn't very expensive at all. I don't have like AC or like central heating or anything like that. I want to say my average utilities is like maybe 30 bucks, but it's really not that bad. Overall, the expenses is definitely one of the worst parts of living by yourself. Because it was a goal of mine, I knew it was gonna be expensive. It was something I saved up for. There's a reason I was working 2 jobs while I was at home. It was just expected. I knew it was gonna be expensive and I was okay with it because it was like a goal of mine. The second con I would say is all the cleaning. I feel Like, I am cleaning 10 times more than I was cleaning when I had roommates, and I don't know what it is. I'm not like that dirty or messy of a person, but I swear I turn around and there's like another thing to clean up, whether it's like sinks or cleaning the bathroom or dishes or vacuum, like it could be whatever, but I swear I'm cleaning something every single day. I mean, okay, I guess if I were to add another con in here, I'll be honest with you, I've probably gotten a little bit messier since living by myself, but only because I don't really have a reason to be super perfectly clean all the time because nobody else is living here, and I don't have to really be conscientious of the fact that somebody else is living in the space and I want it to be clean for them as well. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's like, I guess that's a con, but I've also lived with roommates, you know, for the past, I guess, 4 years before this, and I wouldn't say I was a messy person then, so I don't think, I don't know, it's an actual problem. But a little tip that I have for kind of both of these things that I have been implementing for a while now is to pretty much just clean up the space I'm using after I'm done using it. So if I made dinner in the kitchen, I'll cook, I'll eat, and then I'll go clean it up. Or if I'm in the living room watching TV with blankets and pillows all over, after I'm done watching TV, I'll put everything back to where it's supposed to go. Because the longer I let stuff sit in like the disordered state, the longer I'm just gonna let it keep sitting there. Now I will say the two areas I'm not the best at this with is my room and like my vanity. I have like a built-in kind of vanity right next to my bathroom sink. I've tried many times to pick up all of my makeup and brushes after I'm done using them, and I've gotten better at it, but it's still not the best. The reason I think I'm really good at picking up like the living room kitchen is because, I mean, you can kind of see it. That's my front door right there. So like you walk in and you're like immediately in my living room. So as long as my living room and like kitchen area is picked up, I feel a little bit better, and it kind of just makes my apartment look cleaner. You know how like once you make your bed in your room automatically looks like 10 times cleaner, even though you just made your bed? That's kind of how it is. Now, the fourth con that I would say is that you're definitely a lot more lonely. I would say this is pretty obvious, but if you don't really like being alone, or you know, you're not worried about having your alone time, then living by yourself probably not the best thing for you. I really like my alone time. I need my alone time to recharge, so I kind of knew I was gonna like living by myself. But I will say, especially combining that with working from home, it does get kind of lonely. Like, I'm here all the time, every single day, all day long by myself. Now, luckily I have my cat, so I at least have some other living, breathing creature living with me, which definitely helps. For the most part, the best thing that I have learned to kind of just avoid and being proactive so you don't feel that lonely is to just be making plans. I like always want to have something to look forward to, whether it's the weekend or something during the week that I'm doing with friends or my boyfriend or something like that. And it honestly helps tremendously, and it like makes me like crave my alone time again. Like, if I'm being social all weekend, I'm like so excited for Sunday nights when I'm by myself and I get my alone time again. And I think that's super helpful, because even if you do like your alone time, too much of a good thing, you know, it's just, it can be a little bit too much. So that's my tip for that. My last two cons seem like small things, and they're definitely not deal breakers, but I wasn't thinking about either of these things when I was looking forward to living by myself. The first one is answering my front door, which I know sounds really dumb when I say that out loud, but when I lived with roommates, I would always avoid answering the front door because I don't know who's out there, and I don't want to open the door to a stranger, especially if I'm not expecting somebody to come over. And I would always just in my head say, oh, somebody else will get it, because I could, because there's other people living in the same space as me. But now, like, nobody else is gonna answer the door if somebody's at it. I will say, if I'm not expecting anybody, I won't answer it. I'm too scared. But there have been times where the person doesn't go away and I have to open it. It ends up just being like a maintenance person that's coming to like fix my sink or something. I really wasn't expecting to get so nervous answering my front door, but I don't know. And then the last thing I'm gonna talk about is, okay, I don't want to sound like one of those cliche girls that says she's afraid of spiders, but I am scared of spiders. They freak me out, they gross me out, they are just, I don't like them. I don't like them. But there's nobody else to get the spider except for me. And I'm not gonna let a spider crawl all over my wall once I see it. And it's not only having to deal with the spider in the first place, it's then having to get a tissue and go up and try to get it. Because in my mind, I think the spider's gonna jump on me. And I couldn't imagine a worse thing than having a spider crawl all over my body. That sounds like my worst nightmare. And not only that, but after I get over that fear, I have to then squish it. And if I like feel its body crunching, I will throw up. That's disgusting. I don't want to deal with that. So my solution to spiders. Let's say it's on the wall. I will take like a clear glass and just catch that sucker in the cup and then drag it down the wall until I can set the cup on the ground. And after that, I let nature take its course. Okay? Is that cruel? Maybe. Sometimes my boyfriend will come over and he'll let them go outside, which I'm fine with. I just don't want to be in charge of that. Sometimes I have a cup sitting on my floor for quite a while until that guy's dead. That's how I deal with them. And it's really only spiders that I don't like. I mean, cockroaches too, but luckily I haven't had that problem in this apartment. So moving on to pros, the more fun things to talk about. The first one, the obvious one, is just having your own space. Like I said, I love my alone time. I need my alone time to recharge, and I have an entire apartment to do that in. Whenever I had roommates, the kind of only space that you can get your alone time if you had like a single would be your bedroom. But now my alone time can be spent anywhere in my apartment, and I really love it. If I'm out all day, or if I've been somewhere else, or even if I like go back home to visit my parents, just being able to like walk into my apartment and it be all my own space, it's really cool, and I really like it. And it's just, I don't know, I can have my alone time for however long I want, and then I can go be social when I want. And kind of going into that is not having to deal with other people or like other people's tendencies. The most glaring thing is like if you have a messy roommate or you have like a bad roommate experience, which I have had quite a few, but it's even just like not having to deal with like another person there. This kind of goes back into me saying I've become a little bit messier, but I also don't have to clean up a space perfectly after I'm done using it if I don't feel like it. If I'm really tired and I want to leave my dishes in the sink, I don't have to feel bad about me being a dirty roommate to somebody else. I don't know, it's just really nice to be a little bit selfish and not have to worry about anybody else. Does that sound bad? The third pro is being able to decorate your space however you want. This was definitely what I was most excited about moving in here. I've never really fully decorated an apartment that I've lived in, even when I was in school living with friends. One, I was never really gonna invest in nice stuff because we were in college, we would have people over, we'd be going out. It's like I didn't really want to spend money on nice furniture. And then for the most part, I always lived with like at least 3 other people. It was like everybody's stuff all came together and you kind of fit it wherever it fit. And if it looked nice, it looked nice. And if it didn't, it looked like a college apartment. But now it's like I'm living by myself. I can, you know, invest in a nice rug or a nice coffee table, and it's kind of just curating your own home style and aesthetic. Now, does that mean I finished decorating everything in here? Absolutely not. But yeah, just having the creative freedom to decorate however you want is just super cool. And the last part I want to talk about is kind of just the independence and like self-sufficiency that you feel when you live by yourself, as long as you're not having like a completely terrible time. Like I said, I've really enjoyed living by myself. There's like some really big stepping stones that you take. I mean, especially being post-college, there's a lot of growing to do no matter where you are, and I think being by myself a lot of the time, it's just really important to me, and I'm really glad that I have this opportunity to do this. But there's just a little bit of pride in it. I don't know, I think it's cool. I always think it's cool when people live by themselves, but that's because I've always thought that. I have had some people when I first came back tell me they were sorry for me when I told them I was living by myself, which I wasn't expecting, but that's fine. I think as long as you don't absolutely hate being alone, I think everybody could benefit living by themselves, at least for a short amount of time. So that's basically all of my pros and cons. At the end of the day, I recommend living alone if it's something you've been thinking about. I've had a lot of fun living by myself. I feel like I've grown a lot within myself and as an adult, and just figuring out my life by living alone. It kind of takes you out of a comfort zone that I think a lot of people are used to, and whenever you're not in your comfort zone, I feel like you're growing. So I think that's really cool. But yeah, that is basically it. If you have any other questions for me, feel free to comment them down below, or you can go ahead and DM me on Instagram if you're curious about it. Other than that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.